Hello and welcome to this week's edition of our podcast.
Oui, allô, bonjour.
Comment ça va?
Pas pire, pas pire.
Good, moi too. So, how's everyone doing?
Great. It's awesome out.
Yeah, it's hot. It's hot in here. We're gonna do this. We're gonna go spend some time outside. So we got some things to talk about here first.
One thing Sam did not want to talk about. Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah. I don't know, like, I just don't get why it's a big deal. There's been transgender people for a long time. Why is it all of a sudden this one guy becomes a girl? That's a huge deal.
I'm not a fan of like the big celebrity thing, like we were talking about, like, oh, Kim Kardashian's having a baby or Kate Middleton's having a baby, woohoo, like, you know, everyone gets pregnant, whatever. Like you say, lots of people are transgender. The only, like, the good thing I see though about this is that it brings more like awareness to the whole, about the transgender community to the rest of us. Like, even over the last year, I've learned quite a bit more about the transgender community than I knew in the past. Obviously, like, I'm not an expert or anything, but I think it's generally good that it's coming into like the spotlight, and I guess we need celebrities to do that nowadays. I don't know.
I guess. I mean, if that's how you got the message across to people, I guess that works. I mean, if that's how people will start to accept. I mean, I think people already accept it, but for the most part in Canada anyways. But if that's how you have to get to people so that they understand and accept the transgender community, then hooray.
Like, I don't know, maybe people will be more down for that sex ed curriculum now.
Now that Bruce Jenner.
Caitlyn Jenner.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, I heard today Twitter has an algorithm and corrects you if you use the wrong gender. Where they call it I don't know, whatever they call it. Talking.
What do you mean?
Talking about Caitlyn Jenner or whatever. There's like some auto-correct algorithm or
just for that one thing?
I don't know. I just saw a headline. I didn't actually read that article there.
I was gonna say, like, what if somebody, his name was Sam? Could be a guy or a girl, or like.
Yeah, no. I think it's like
Kelly.
a specific.
Well, that's not fair.
Yeah.
How come he gets she gets autocorrect? Nobody else says.
I don't know. We'll have to look into that.
But it's elitist Twitter.
It's funny, dude. I guess there's all kinds of memes and stuff there. I saw a few just like making jokes about Caitlyn Jenner looking better than her ex-wife and stuff like that. It's like, okay. Now they've got like a reality show. And
oh my god!
Or not a reality show. It's like a docu-series or something like that. Which kind of like I said, I'm not a big fan of the celebrity thing, but if it helps bring awareness and that's how they have to do it, I guess, like, all the power to them. Like, she is putting herself out there to be kind of almost like the spokesperson now for the transgender community, and yeah, good for her.
Yeah. That's an interesting story.
Speaking speaking of world events or whatever, Ireland last week now, I think, passed a referendum to allow same-sex marriage. I think it was in like 60 or 70% voted for.
I believe it's the first country to pass same-sex marriage by referendum.
Which is pretty sweet. I mean, I don't know, my buddy Byron there, he says the Irish is pretty like, they're pretty like Catholic, old school or whatever. So it's cool to see the world kind of changing and
Okay.
taking this direction. You know.
I thought he was going to comment on how that changes things for soccer.
No, well, see, we got to talk about soccer in a bit there.
I
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Like, I don't know if any other countries had the vote by referendum. Like, do we ever get referendums here?
well,
Like, they had the Quebec one, like, in the 90s.
There was another one fairly recently too. I forget what it was. So
What I want is a referendum for the hydro one sell off. Or I would have liked one for Bill C-51.
yeah, did you hear about that? Somebody's bringing it to court.
Yeah, this lawyer Rocco something or whatever, he's been bringing all kinds of well, I don't know, stuff that I would call shady that our government's done to court, and he's taking on C-51 now as one of them.
Good. Somebody's got to do it.
No kidding. Yeah, so yeah, Caitlyn Jenner, same-sex marriages in Ireland, even though the Vatican's not too happy about it. I think Pope Francis, do they have a special name too they call him there? Other than Pope? No? It's not like his royal popeness or something? He didn't say anything, but his second in command made some pretty shitty comments. I don't really remember what they were, but they on the lines of setting humanity back or something. Like, yeah, I don't know. I guess
well, that's stupid because same-sex marriage is been legal in a lot of countries for a long time.
Yeah, it's legal in Ontario, isn't it?
It's legal in Canada.
In all of Canada.
Yeah. How come their camera's blurry?
I don't know. That's weird. You just go blurry. Shut it off. Let's check it out. So yeah, it's legal in Canada. Yeah, I guess so, because Americans used to come here to get married and stuff. Right?
Yeah, in multiple U.S. states now, it's a growing number. I think it's above 30 now.
Really, that's about death penalty numbers now. At 30 states.
It's not 30 states that have the death penalty.
Oh yeah, over 30.
That have the death penalty.
And the federal government, because the federal government's who prosecuted the Boston bomber. Yeah, I checked it out when they came out, man. It's over 30 states.
And I have to do some fact checking on that one. I don't believe you.
Keep looking at it. I'll check it out there for sure just now. Alright, so yeah. What do you think about that? Should we have more referendums?
Yeah.
Get the population more involved?
Yeah, I mean, where is it, Sweden? I think it's Sweden. They're renowned for the referendums. And they got shit done. You got a politically involved population who actually care about what's going on in their communities and their country.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
I think it's a great idea.
It's kind of hard. You elect this person and whatever, if they don't represent you, or we all have this. Like myself, I'm bad for it. I have like this cynical view that politicians won't necessarily represent me, and then they just tell us what they want to get elected and do what they want once they get there, or what their party leader tells. So
it's funny with the death penalty here. The most of the states that don't have the death penalty are the states that are bordering to Canada. So mostly northern states. That's interesting, but there is a lot of them. You're right.
Yeah, I was surprised. I don't know exactly how many countries that is, but
How many states?
yeah, how many states that is?
Yeah, that's a lot.
It's legal.
31 states.
31 states. So
Okay.
that's close there.
Yeah, it's true. You were saying though before I lost my train of thought.
Oh, I was just talking about referendums and stuff.
Yeah.
I was just saying, like, it's a good way, as opposed to voting for someone and then hoping that they do what you think they should do for 5 years.
And that's where when you talk about how we can use technology to better our political process, I think that's one of the things that would help. that they could develop some sort of system. Although that would be a bit complicated because you have to make sure that it's foolproof, and the government's not very good at doing that with technology.
I mean, some places allow you to vote online,
and it causes all kinds of problems. Though,
like I voted in the Timmins election year. I know that's a small jurisdiction, but I voted online for the mayor this year.
Did you do that here?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, I voted like a few
Well,
days
I've
before.
heard of a lot of problems with that, with the legitimacy of the votes. Hackers can hack that.
I've also heard of a lot of votes with challenges and to the legitimacy on paper too, though. Like,
Yeah, I guess.
but yeah, it's obviously nothing. No system's perfect. Another way that I could see to use technology to get people more involved in, like, still in the somewhat same system that we have now, would just be like a maybe just comments or a poll or something or whatever. So like, let's say Charlie Angus, whatever, had to vote on something this week. The people of Timmins could just go and obviously they can call them and stuff, but they could have a poll to see like what the percentage of people in Timmins feel about like a certain policy or whatever. Obviously, they wouldn't always go with the population because there is some party line stuff
But
going on.
that's at least one more person that you have to hire. That's higher taxes.
Because government worries about that shit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if you're going to be spending money, you might as well spend money on getting people involved in the system and getting like, as long as the MP like listens or whatever, like pays attention to it. It's not a bad way to spend money.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, like, somebody's salary, 50 grand, plus it, like, times however many jurisdictions there are in Canada, which is like 300, plus the computer equipment required, plus the setup for the computer equipment required, plus the hosting capabilities, plus the maintenance.
Small price to pay for something closer to a democracy than we have now. I've heard of way worse things that government officials and the government spent their money on, like ads by a conservative government, subsidies for oil companies that don't need subsidies. You know, there's plenty of money to go around. Why don't we just use it on something legitimate?
I don't know, like, to me, oil subsidies, they're like not named properly because they're not subsidies.
Tax breaks.
They're not tax breaks. They're just failing to collect the taxes.
Might as well be a tax break. You're not getting the tax money.
It's not a
Might as well
tax
be a
break.
tax break.
It's the company exploiting loopholes in the legislation. Two, the government
Okay, so fix the loophole.
The government not being staffed enough, not being manned enough to fix that. And three, even if they have to fix that, it has to go through Parliament. And then the oil companies have people that are hired for the sake of finding loopholes in legislation. So even when you fix it, they're just going to find another one.
Okay, then fix it. I don't know. Like, fix it, use the money that you get from the oil companies and keep on it, man. Like, I don't know, you gotta get the money out and the influence out some way. Like, so basically what you're saying is we can't fix this problem because the oil industry has enough money to pay people to affect our policy, so we can't implement a policy that would get more influence from the people. Because, I don't know, like, why?
Why do we... No, I was just talking about the money. and how like you're saying, oh, there's all this money, they're giving tax breaks to oil companies, and it's not they're giving tax breaks to oil companies, it's that oil companies are exploiting the system. So it's not like they can just go and take that money without paying the cost to get that money and use that money to put in a system where people can vote on shit online.
So we should just stay powerless to the oil
No,
companies.
that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying the way you're thinking of this is wrong. They can't just take that money and put it into the system. That has to be money that comes from somewhere else, because they have to deal with that problem separately.
Yeah, or not continue doing what they're doing and not deal with it.
I'm sure there's
plenty of money to pass legislation for Bill C-51 and whatever else the Conservatives want to do. So they can find money to implement other things that, like, they have plenty of money to give more to CSIS, CSEC, whatever. They have plenty for commercials. So why? Like,
and there's plenty of money in healthcare. There's plenty of money in road infrastructure. There's plenty of money in like other like small business loans and employment insurance and all that shit. You're gonna take money from there?
I don't know. I'm just saying it's something that could be considered, and saying that there's not enough money for it is ridiculous.
I'm not saying there's not enough money for it. I'm saying that it might be hard to convince the population that's not politically involved.
Well, what does convincing the population have to do with anything? They pass laws without convincing us all the time. That's the whole point of having.
No, like there's most of the time there's this popular opinion, especially in an election year. Like when C-51 was first introduced, the Conservative government had popular opinion.
They didn't when it passed.
No, they didn't. Like sometimes that happens. What? Oh, what do you want me to say?
Like Hydro 1's going to get sold off. There's no public opinion. Because they said they're going to do it.
No, they said they're thinking of doing it. They didn't say they're going to do it.
It's in the budget.
Was it?
Do they have popular opinion for that?
Was it in the budget? Because like they already have polls that ask people that shit, right? Like, so what?
I'm just saying you could have direct, like you could talk directly to your.
So all 36 million Canadians will be able to talk
to their MPs. Like,
sure
they have polls to survey. Like they have polls to survey people. That's not government regulated. That's just a whatever. Like that's just third party companies, right? So like some actual. I wish I can remember what the country was or state.
I think it's Scotland.
But they actually had something like that,
right.
And
not Scotland. Sweden. I think.
And they had some MPs that literally said like, "We'll vote for whatever, like whatever our population."
I think that's something that an individual MP could also do for his riding. Like, I mean, you could put up. I don't know.
Well, you have to hire someone.
Probably, yeah. Like they have staff.
Where are you gonna go?
Micromanagement, man. Microeconomics. Like this, an MP has a certain amount of money in its budget to make things work, right? So you have to have an MP that's forward thinking and that sees the long term benefit of such a system, right? I'm not saying that no MPs would.
And his party leader also has to.
No,
at least sign off on it.
Not necessarily.
So you're saying they don't whip votes? You're saying they don't have votes where they have to vote on the party line?
Well, to gather the information, they wouldn't need the party to sign.
But to act on it.
It depends on the party. It depends on the party's way of doing things. There's some parties, like you pointed out to me, don't whip votes.
So far, the only one that I know of is Green Party, right?
Yeah. And a lot of, like, I know historically anyways, liberals...
Whip votes, by the way, just means, like, you want to explain it? Or just means that you're kind of forced to vote for your part, like, what your party line...
Yeah. But in a lot of cases...
So what your leader wants. So, like, let's say Leader got elected.
Not necessarily the leader, the caucus.
Okay, so let's say Leader got elected here, and like Trudeau and the caucus decided, hey, the party's voting for something, we're voting that way. That's the way it goes.
But for a lot of situations and a lot of parties, certain votes will you'll have to vote along the party line. Other votes you have the freedom to vote the way that you want. Anyways, yeah, pretty much. I think that's what we were saying. But so yeah, like let's say Charlie Angus decides that, oh, I'm gonna see what my constituents want about things. You could probably create a Survey Monkey thing. Although I don't know if the Survey Monkey servers can handle like 100,000 people.
Probably. I'm sure they do surveys. The only thing that the reason I was saying it might have to be like a government thing or something is like you have to like sort of like whenever we voted in Timmins here, like I had to like register as a voter or something and do it, like so like you don't get like someone from Australia filling out the survey or something like that.
It's true, yeah. And you don't want double votes either, so you gotta watch out for that. So it might have to be like its own not a CRM because it's not like for retail, but its own program, its own.
Yeah, like I said, there is some software out there. There is some software out there. Like I think you said Sweden. I'm not sure exactly, but there are people trying to do it. I'll try and find it for you where it was if you guys care about that kind of stuff.
We'll post it on Twitter. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, I think it's a good idea. I think in practice it's hard to implement in a country the size of Canada.
Why in a country the size of Canada? Like, what do you mean, like Canada's too big, it's too small? I don't understand. Like,
it's too big.
Population-wise?
Both.
But it's a computer. It doesn't matter what, like, you can talk to someone in Australia to, like, right now, what is the size of the country have to do with anything?
Well, the size, like, because somebody in James Bay is going to think differently than somebody in Timmins.
So the size of our writings?
Yeah. And, like, the fact that, like, 36 million people is still quite a bit of people. It's not like a small...
They're able to organize us to pay our taxes online. So
not everybody pays their taxes online though.
And not everyone would do this. Not everyone pays taxes, so then you're taking out, or not everyone's voting age or whatever. Not everyone's registered. But anyways, scalability is one thing, but I mean, in theory, the tax system should be able to take everyone paying their taxes online. In theory, obviously, we got.
I've never tried to do it, but
well, they had to extend the tax season this year, I think, and I'm pretty sure it's because of the website issues.
Yeah, exactly. The government hired me once to tell them potential improvements to their website. I was a political science student. I have no background really in web development, web design.
Oh, so what you're saying is maybe Harper should have spent that ad money on hiring tech literate people.
Maybe. Maybe. But that might come down to departmental. Is that a word? It is. might come down to departmental budgets and what they spend their money on. It might be more micro managed than at the prime minister level. Not sure. I'm sure it's not Harper that hired me. I was working under who was Minister of Public Safety back then? Kim, started with the T. Anyways.
Oh, anyways, that's that, I guess. I don't know.
What were we talking about again? Oh, referendums.
The last one I can remember hearing about in Canada was Quebec only won on whether to separate or not.
The,
pretty important one, I guess.
And they didn't separate, although they're their own nation.
Whatever that means. Truth and reconciliation. What does that mean, Sam?
What does that mean, Sam?
Alright, okay.
It refers to the First Nations residential school.
A new report came out.
Yeah.
381-page report.
No, that's the summary.
Oh, okay. What?
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
That's
the
the
381-page summary of the full report. Like, that's unbelievable.
So the report details the treatment and situation, I guess, like the consequences. It's like of residential schools. If you don't know what residential schools are, the report just actually proved or whatever admitted that the Canadian government and I don't know if at any point the British government the British government and the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church I know, British government I don't know if it happened like right at Confederation. We're like, all right, let's fuck like these guys over. But anyways, so basically, as part of their program to assimilate and remove the native culture, to take their lands and just like completely not have a native culture. Like, I don't know how you would explain it. Like,
well, it's kind of like a melting pot. It's kind of the way to explain it that I would explain it is like modern day U.S. where it's a melting pot where you have to adjust your culture to the current American culture. Except they kind of did it much more forcibly.
Yeah. So the other part of it is that they just didn't want to honor the treaties that they signed with the Native American community. So they figured, well, maybe if they're all white or, you know, if there's no actual Native Americans, then we don't have to, you know, not charge them taxes and give them reservations so they don't respect their land, which we've been pretty good at ignoring pretty much anyways. But anyway, so in these schools, a lot of bad shit happened. Kids were taken away from their parents without permission or anything.
They showed up. The Canadian government showed up at their homes, physically removed the children, took them to residential schools, very far away, hundreds of kilometers away. In some cases, even probably farther, like across the country.
So basically, their goal was teach them English or French, I guess, because the Catholic Church had a big French presence as well, right? So they weren't allowed to speak their language or do their, I don't know if they call them prayers, but like their own rituals. They'd get in trouble. They wouldn't be able to talk to their parents. They'd get in trouble for doing their own rituals or speaking their own language. There's widespread cases of abuse, sexual abuse, violent abuse, obviously mental abuse. I don't know. They confirmed at least 6,000 deaths.
Yeah. That's probably lowballing there.
So obviously, this report also goes into just the long-term effects of the people that firsthand went through the schools, and then their families, their communities. Yeah, not to mention
their descendants in most cases.
Not to mention just the general climate in Canada now that we've created with poverty, racism, discrimination towards the native people, like this whole like separation between the two. So basically what happened is they tried to assimilate them and they pushed us way farther apart. That's the way I see it, kind of like.
Well, it didn't work for sure. I don't know if it pushed us further apart. So I don't know what it would be like if that didn't happen. So I can't. To me, I can't say that it necessarily did. But I think nowadays there's some sort of willingness from local governments, anyways, and local communities to try and embrace these people as part of our own community. But there's still problems with that because Aboriginal people have their own nations, their own laws, their own culture, which is being lost. I mean, here in Timmins, a lot of natives are forced to relocate to the city, at least during a period of time every year because of floods in their communities, and they're thrown into a world that's completely different from their own. In a lot of reserves until recently, I don't know now, but there was no such thing as really television, or like you don't really have a context of the outside world when you're up there up north in those reserves. Then you come here and you have this Americanized European lifestyle that's completely different. Alcohol also was not really prevalent in Canada when the natives were here before Europeans came, and it's still very hard to come by in a lot of the reserves up north. So when they come to the city and there's all this alcohol everywhere, they tend to abuse it because they were never exposed to it before.
Not to mention a lot of their like most alcoholism is a symptom of like other problems that like maybe like mental or emotional, like abuse or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of a filler, so to speak.
And then they come here and like obviously it's not everyone and it goes both ways, but there is, there's racism. Like we've both felt it in some places, like towards black people or whatever, but here, like I'd say racism towards natives is probably more prevalent than anything like that. I don't know. Obviously it's a good step for our government to put this out and to admit to what happened in the past, and we kind of got to see where things go in the future. Like to me personally, I think we stand to learn a lot from native traditions and native communities. They have, from what I've observed, and I'm not an expert in any regard, they have a great sense of community. They learn a lot from their elders. They treat their elderly people really well. They're just that kind of stuff. They have I'm generalizing, I guess, but their traditions are really good. They're close to nature, right? They're really close. They value the land, and that was in the treaties that they signed with us. And to them, a lot of this, even like the mines here or the tar sands or whatever, would be violating the treaties.
Well, I was reading Naomi Klein there, and there's a section, and she talked about the cowboys and Indians protests against pipelines and tar sands operation.
Yeah, well, it's just in the United States. Yeah. Like American, like it was fucking cowboy hats, cowboy boots, ranchers protesting alongside Native Americans.
But there was one quote in particular from a Native lady, and it was along the lines. I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know offhand. I don't have the book offhand, but she was basically saying that the difference between natives and the oil companies and the resource extraction companies is that natives want to be one with the land. They want to harness the land, and they want to maintain it for them and for their descendants, their children and their grandchildren and everything. Whereas oil companies just want to go in, take what's most valuable to them, take it out, and then just leave the mess and pollute the surroundings.
Same goes for gold companies or all the other ones. The only reason, like, I mean, even here now, like Gold Corp, they have, when they decided to make the pit, they had to submit like how their plans for what they would do when it closed and renaturalize it, and I think it's becoming a lake in that, but it wasn't always like that, and that's just because of our regulation here. Like, you hear some pretty atrocious shit that they do in Africa or where they don't have a government protecting the environment or the local people. But yeah, you're right, the relationship with the land. Actually, another thing that I saw in Naomi Klein's book is most of the treaties that they signed allowed the Europeans or whatever, either the Canadian or the British government at the time, to like dig in the land, but only like a shovel full deep or something. And that's a lot of the court cases that they're taking against the tar sands and stuff is based on it's right in their treaty.
There was one particular case in Ottawa, well, I guess technically west of Ottawa in Canada, where there was a bunch of trees. There was a forest, a historic forest that is traditionally a certain native community's land, and it was to be cut down to build subdivisions. Yeah. This is, I don't know if this is still ongoing, but when I was in university, I was taking Aboriginal Affairs. We had a presenter come in. She was partnering with the natives to try to shut down the development of this subdivision because it was their land, it was their treaty right to preserve that land. And that's just one example, right? Like,
yeah,
you know, they're trying, and then like in Western Canada, this is a lot more prominent too, with all the pipelines and everything.
Yeah, there's all these native courts, and like we were talking about, I know we're talking about Naomi Klein a lot, but like she believes, and it makes sense that our best hope as environmentalists is to, you know, actually reconcile with the native people and to back them in their court cases, and like, because they have the best rights when it comes to taking on these companies. They had the foresight when they signed these papers 150 years ago. Obviously they didn't know what would happen, but they had the foresight to know that, like, what they should put on the paper, which is pretty remarkable. Yeah. Like when it's standing up to the modern day lawyers and like the lawyers these oil companies have. Now you're starting to sway public opinion as well, so that's another huge one.
Well, if you think about it, they're an old civilization. They're like, it's like China, man. It's an old civilization that's been through a bunch of stuff, and now they're persistent, and they're like, what's the word I'm looking for? I gotta take this.
Alright.
And so, like we were saying before, we were rudely interrupted by Marriott Hotels calling me to inform me that I won something. I hung up before they told me what it was. Anyways, natives, they're old civilizations because there's multiple. They're not all the same civilization. They're all different tribes. Like China, and China's proven to be to hold their own through thick and thin. and they're starting to become somewhat of a power
again.
in the world. So
Yeah, so I think one of the big things, right, like China kind of like walled themselves off for a while. They literally have a wall around their entire country, basically, and yeah, they kept their civilization for a long time. One of the big things, I guess, that happened, and almost more so, I'd say, I guess, in the United States, is and in Southern America, all this is that. Is that it? Yeah, Southern America. South America is that they were literally separated from the rest of the world, right? From Europe, from Asia, from
physically separated.
Yeah, like physically separated, right? So, like they're building machines. I mean, I don't know if they had the steam engine when they first got here, but they were more industrialized or whatever, and like.
Who are you talking about? China?
No, like the West, or sorry, yeah, I should say the Eastern world, like Europe.
Western.
Well, we're west of them.
Yeah, Western Europe.
Yeah, Europe. Yeah. So when Europe got here, it was like for both sides, it was just like a huge, crazy like we obviously don't have the history for the natives, but for the Europeans, they literally just like Christopher Columbus or whatever thought he was just gonna go like right through North America. They didn't even know it existed, right? So once they got here, like the natives were taken completely unawares to the Europeans who kind of had this colonizing agenda. They just kind of took the land as their own and saw the natives as savages, and not a good way to start a relationship, I guess. Even though I should say the natives, if maybe not Christopher Columbus, because Christopher Columbus was a bit south, but like the first pilgrims in the United States, in New England and all that, they left Europe because they thought Europe was getting too heathenly or whatever. Like, so they wanted to come be closer to God and come to North America once they heard it was there. They would have completely, like, they lost so many people, they would have completely died if it weren't for native people helping them out, showing them how to fish, how to build houses, whatever, on the land. And so for a while there was actually like an alright relationship. Like, I guess that native had learned just English from prior just visitors or whatever before these guys came to settle. And
well, you don't necessarily need language.
From it's I saw this on Mankind, like it was on the History Channel, so I take it fairly seriously. Like, it's not American Pickers or anything there, but this guy, the native came up to them and spoke to them in English, the Native American, and they helped them out. And I guess over time, just conflict arose, and the kings in Europe got involved and stuff, and the situation deteriorated. Obviously, I'm not an expert on the matter there, but so I don't know. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's probably a smart move to reconcile with them, and like, we need them more than ever.
It's a long way to go, though.
Oh yeah,
it's the start of a long road.
Yeah, but yeah, it's, like I say, we can learn a lot from them.
The one thing that's kind of crazy is that there's native Canadians in Parliament, and I don't say it's kind of crazy to be offensive in any way. It's just that for the most part, natives don't recognize the Canadian law system. They recognize their own sort of tribal laws. So we're seeing a transition, I guess is what I'm implying, where there's certain native Canadians that are taking a leap and deciding that you can instill change from within the Canadian system. Just I've seen a few interesting speeches by some of these native MPs in the Canadian Parliament. And I think it's a it's good to have that presence, even though that might not be their primary artery for change and for having their rights respected. It's definitely a good place to start.
I guess it makes sense when the government of Canada is making decisions on their like, about their reservation and about everything else involved. Like, I mean, you said like they're not involved in politics and government, but they must feel the government influence. I mean, like,
well,
they're on a they're on like.
They see it as like as another country, as a relationship with another country, generally speaking. Just like Canada would deal with the United States, or with England, or the UK. That's
or like more. Would it be more like? Because it's within our like. I guess they kind of don't really agree with the board.
No, they don't.
Yeah, one of those chapters in the border book there, just about the U.S.-Canada border. There's a First Nation
on the border,
on the border, and they've been petitioning for probably 100 years now at least, because now they literally have to like tribal councils and everything because they're into different countries, which whatever, that was just the land, that was just their land before, and they just like it's just ridiculous to them.
But like I say, for the most part, they see Canada as another nation, and that's how they deal with the government.
Hold on. Well, I hope things go well, and apologizing is good and nice and good, but let's wait to see what the government does about it, what happens, what comes out of it.
Actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. Speaking of, actions. Did we talk about FIFA last week? No, eh? That all happened like at the end
I
of the
didn't
week.
talk about FIFA last week.
Okay, so FIFA, I don't even know what the acronym is, but anyways, it's the international governing body of soccer, or football, and if you're anywhere else in North America.
Football International Football Association.
I'm getting, yes, there's a federation or something. Anyway, so they're the governing body. They're known for their corruption.
Now they are.
But you saw it last year in Brazil. They'll go into these countries and that there's like this. What was that stadium they built? They use so many migrant workers. So migrant workers are just like workers that immigrated somewhere to work, and they work illegally and cheaply, and to build these like huge stadiums. And what we were watching on John Oliver, this one stadium is literally a parking lot now.
Pretty much.
So they spend all this money and cause all this trouble in Brazil. Anyways, but so six or nine officials from FIFA were indicted by the United States Department of Justice last week. Like high officials, basically over charges of corruption, I guess, for like taking money to put the World Cup in certain countries, and just doing general shady shit in their operations. And there's some. So my buddy, I'll mention Byron again there. He's getting 2 shout-outs. He's pretty jacked because soccer, I mean, that organization is probably known as the most corrupt out of all the sports ones, including the NFL and the Olympic Committee and all that. So anyways, he's pretty jacked about it. We watched John Oliver, and John Oliver's pissed off because the president, Sepp Blatter, who presided over all this corruption and has been president for like 16 years or something like that. 2 days after these arrests, he wasn't arrested, by the way. He was re-elected president of FIFA, and has stepped down today. So, not that I know much about FIFA. Now they don't have a president.
I don't know. Every time we talk about these sports scandals, I kind of just zone out.
Yeah, you've been telling me.
It's like I don't like. Basically, some crazy shit happen in an organization that makes a bunch of money for no reason. And
Yeah. Well, I mean, when people
No.
are dying, when people are literally dying to build stadiums, I mean, you gotta think that you gotta fix something somewhere. You know, like, what do they say?
people die in sweatshops every day.
That's true. That's true. And if I saw a huge arrest at the heads of Nike or whatever other company was like they were making clothes for, I'd be talking about that as well.
Fair enough.
But I don't know. I just thought it was big news, and hopefully it means something for corruption in soccer. I'm not really that.
Well, yeah, hopefully, and in sport.
And in sport in general, yeah.
Like, I'm tired of talking about these freaking scandals, so.
Well, we don't have to talk about it anymore. I just thought I'd mention it.
No, all power to you. It's just, I don't know. It's not my thing. Hopefully, justice has been served. I wish I had one of those hammers.
But yeah, one of the things is like, out of all people, like, the United States, out of all countries, spent their time and money to prosecute the Football Association or the Soccer Association. You know, like, just seems like a weird one to me. And then I talked to Byron and he's like, oh yeah, they're just pissed that they didn't get a World Cup or something like that.
Yeah.
Fucking politics.
Lastly, but definitely not leastly, the Patriot Act.
Oh, keep it on the subject of America.
America. So, for those of you who don't know, the Patriot Act was introduced after 9/11. It was an effort to fight terrorism. Basically, it allowed the NSA to go through metadata for phones, and it also allowed for other tracking, like library books that you take out and stuff like that. And apparently it hasn't really solved any or prevented any terrorism acts. And it just, parts of it have just expired over the weekend. And so now the government of America is no longer allowed to collect phone metadata.
Aren't they lucky? Yeah, so this is, I don't know, I guess cynical of me to say, but I think this happened because we were trying to pass what do they call it, an extension or something like that? They're trying to pass an extension in the Senate. The White House was really going for it, and Rand Paul, who happens to be a presidential candidate, filibustered it, which means I don't even know actually what filibuster means. Well, when Mulcair did it, he just kept talking until like the House of Commons was over, and they didn't get to vote on C-51. So I'm gonna guess it's something like that. So they let it lapse. Now they had I actually watched that. I don't know where it was, but I saw the press secretary for the White House calling the Senate out and all that, because now they can't wiretap people and whatever. I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I hope it stays down. Like, what do you think, man? Do you think we should get the Patriot Act going in Canada or what?
No.
No.
That's my take on it. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously it means that there's some people that don't think that the Patriot Act should be there, and we need to they need to reconsider that down there in the States. And maybe it's a dawn of a new era. Maybe it'll get Rand Paul elected.
Elected for president, yeah. Maybe it's a good tactic for him, as long as he doesn't re-implement it or
He's Republican in a way. That's weird.
Yeah, he's a Republican. Exactly. The Republicans put the thing in, but he's more of a. I wish I should get Derek on here because he knows all about that. There's a branch. It's called Libertarian.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sort of what Sarah Palin was closer to it, where
it's usually closer to liberal values. So.
Yeah, but one of the big thing is the big things about it is liberty, obviously libertarian. So for them, the big thing would be like get the government out of my business sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's one of the core values. And obviously, he's pandering to people that aren't a fan of the Patriot Act, and like this guy. That's why I gained a lot of respect from Mulcair with the C-51 filibuster, even though obviously it didn't really do anything. We have it anyways. So does this mean our privacy, or whatever they call them, our terrorism laws are stricter than the United States now in Canada?
I don't know if C-51 is officially enacted.
I don't know. I know it passed the House and the Senate, but I don't know when
there's
it
probably still
comes
like,
into law.
yeah, there's probably still a buffer there.
Fuck. That's
I don't know, like, it might get revoked. It's going to the Supreme Court. We know Harper's track record for bills that have gone to the Supreme Court isn't very good.
Oh yeah, you got a lawyer there.
Yeah. So it's like, to me, it's probably on hold until that case is over, and then we'll see what happens. Well, we might have a new government by then.
Oh, we shall see. We shall see.
On that bombshell, we're gonna end it so we can go have some lovely time outside.
Plus, we can't use your backyard.
Let's go to the river. Be nice. Anyways, we'll catch you on the flip side.
Oh yeah. And follow us on Twitter at Fortier Bros.
At Fortier Bros.
And we mentioned Byron too, so let's put up that rectangle too. Get some people following him if you want a different opinion on things.